Hey friends, today we're going to be doing a tutorial on the lost painting from Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Castlevania Symphony of the Night is one of my all-time favorite games, and Lost Painting is one of my all-time favorites. There's a lot to unpack with this arrangement. I use a lot of fingerstyle percussive techniques, which I'll show you how to do, and then we'll also go through the song together so you can get a better idea of how I play it. Alright, let's get started. Now this next part is just a pedal tone between the G and the E strings. And a retardando there. So one thing about this section is you don't have to hit the strings too hard on this phrase. It's not like a... You can be a little softer. It's more of a light dance between the G and the E string. Now measure 8, you start to see some of those percussive techniques that I was talking about, where I'm using the palm of my hand to strike the guitar, the body of the guitar acting like the bass drum, and then I'm slapping the strings to act as the snare. So in this first phrase, in measure 8, now, there's a couple things there. I'm hitting that first low E simultaneously while hitting the body of the guitar acting like the bass drum there. So the motion is just sort of an outward. And another thing about the slap there on beat 3 of measure 8, I'm actually muting the high E string with my pinky. Whereas if I was to just use my ring finger to hit all the harmonics, you kind of get that high E in there. So I'm using my pinky to mute the high E to only really allow me to hit the G and B strings. Now measure 9 has the same rhythmic pattern as 8, except we're adding a second bass hit on the 4th offbeat. So it's like right before the start of the 10th measure. Which is tricky at first because measure 10 has the same bass hit on the first beat. So you're having to do that bass technique twice in a row, like in succession. So altogether it kind of sounds like this. And measure 11. Again, you have that bass note on the 4th offbeat of that measure. Measures 12 through 15 basically repeat. Now on the 3rd beat of measure 15, that snare hit, I'm not really using anything on my left hand. It's more of just a muting all the low strings here just to get that G. And that's because I need to shift up. For the next measure, this section kind of starts here up on C, so it's... Alright, let's move on. So measure 19 is sort of that same thing where you're having to mute all of the strings on that slap. That motion for me is like with the left hand of my pinky, I have to hit that C note, right? But I'm basically muting the top 5 strings with kind of like my index and my middle finger of my left hand in that particular phrase. So you get a feel for it, but just give that a try. Let's keep going. This is one of my favorite parts of the song. I think the only thing tricky about that part really is on measure 22, it looks like. It's kind of the same thing as before where you're removing your left hand, muting the top 2 strings to hit that D string. At the same time, you're moving your left hand up to slide from that F sharp to G to put you in position for the next measure. So that's the tough thing about this arrangement, is there's a lot of measures where you're moving your left hand position at the same time you're playing drums. It's a very weird feeling when you're not using your left hand, moving it and hitting, you know, kind of the guitar almost tends to fall out of place. So if you have that problem, just kind of lean back a little bit with the guitar. Kind of makes you look all loose anyway, like you really know what you're doing. Let's move on. So you have those natural harmonics there, stopping on that F sharp, and then hitting the natural harmonic on the 12th fret B string, and then these are actually natural harmonics here on the 19th fret, or what would be the 19th fret. I don't have a 19th fret, but... Okay, so let's skip to measure 29, and this is the interlude part. All that's pretty straightforward, except for measures 35, 36, where you're kind of hitting that power chord on F, and again with the bass drum / body hit. But this time, instead of using your slap as the snare on the 3rd beat, you're kind of, I guess it's called golpe, when you're using your fingers and your thumb. Moving on. Measure 39 is a little tricky because you have a palm strike on the 2nd offbeat, right before the third beat, which is the slap. So you're basically hitting that A at the same time you're palm striking. Moving on to measure 45. So just like we talked about in measure 39, measure 46 has that same palm strike on the 2nd offbeat right before the 3rd beat. So you're plucking that B on the high E string while you're doing a palm strike. Measures 49 through 52 basically just repeat. It ends on that open G, just like it did before on the 2nd pass. Measures 53 through 56 repeat exactly as they did in the beginning of the song. And measures 57 through 60, exactly the same as before. And let's close out the song. I've noticed Guitar Pro notes these higher natural harmonics. Now, I think these are considered natural because if there were frets there, you would be able to hit them with your left hand. I'm not using my left hand at all, so that makes them natural. But it notes them a little bit weird. Like it shows that first harmonic on the B string. It's not on the B string, it's on the G string. So this being 19, these being like probably 20, 24, no, 30, in the 30s. Anyway, I don't know how better to explain that, but yeah. So that was it. Like, just take it slow, use a metronome. These kinds of percussive techniques take a little while to get used to. They're not totally natural. Like, it never feels natural for me to hit a string at the same time I'm doing a, bass hit or some. Hopefully this tutorial will help you figure out this song and get you playing it quicker than if you didn't have it. If you have any questions at all, of course, just hit me up on Discord, and yeah, happy playing.